So welcome back. Our final panel of the day, Food Systems Startups in the Northeast Regional Food Business Center, will focus on how federal resources can energize a resilient regional food system from Maine all the way to Maryland. So it is my honor and my privilege to welcome some of our special guests, the panelists today. First, we have the New York State Department of Agriculture and Markets Commissioner Richard Ball. We also have Allison Dehoney, who is going to join us virtually, and Jana Spruill, and they're joining me on stage to have this important discussion. So what we'll start with is to have each speaker introduce themselves and say a little bit about their background. So Commissioner, why don't you start off?
Awesome, thank you so much. And first of all, it's a great honor to be with you, Center of Excellence for Ag and Food here in New York. And with this panel, these are really special people on either side and on the screen here. But I'm Richard Ball, I'm Commissioner of Agriculture for New York State Department, and also a full-time farmer since I was 18 years old. So great to be here.
Yeah, thank you for joining us, Commissioner. Jana.
Yes, thank you, Kathy. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jana Spruill. I'm a program manager for the NASDA Foundation. NASDA stands for the National Association of State Departments of Agriculture. And NASDA focuses on policy and is the voice of the commissioners, directors, and secretaries across the nation. The NASDA Foundation, however, focuses more on education, research, and outreach. So I specifically work on federal cooperative agreements to provide that education and outreach to underinvested communities. And my projects have created GAP toolkits. I'm working with an Access to Capital toolkit with the 2501 program for USDA. My background, however, is in state and federal food regulatory work. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Jana. Thanks for coming. And Allison is joining us online. Say hello, Allison.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you to my fellow panelists for accommodating me via Zoom. Happy to be here. I'm the executive director of Buffalo Go Green, and we're an urban agriculture organization located in Buffalo. I have a corporate background and came into food systems and agricultural work approximately 7 to 8 years ago. Our organization, we are growers and food distributors, but our overarching mission is wellness and nutrition education. We focus primarily in underserved communities in Niagara and Erie County. And I'm here because I'm going to lead the diversity, equity, and inclusion team for this Regional Food Business Center project over the next 5 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Allison. So let me take a moment to kind of set the stage as to why this initiative really started, but our panelists are really going to do a deep dive into it. And I want to take you back to a very scary and painful time, and that's March of 2020. And we all remember what happened then. March 11th, the World Health Organization actually declared that a worldwide pandemic had started. And by March 15th, the states started to shut down one by one by one. And so during that time, we realized that we did have a resilient agri-food system. However, there were some cracks that needed to be addressed. And after the pandemic ended, the Center of Excellence joined with the Cornell Center for Regional Economic Advancement to produce a report called A Call for Innovation, New York's Agri-Food System. And since that time, a lot of steps have been taken in order to really energize and build up the resilient food system that we have. And so that's why I believe the federal government established the Regional Food Business Center. But I want to hear from our panelists what actually the RFBC is. And why did USDA actually create this initiative? So, Jana, I want to start with you on that question.
Sure. The USDA did establish 12 regional food business centers across the nation because of, as Kathy said, the cracks in the food system exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. The Northeast Regional Food Business Center was awarded $30 million, and we extend from Maryland to Maine. Our goal is to support the expansion of technical assistance and business capacity building to strengthen the food system within the Northeast. The Northeast region has a very diverse and complex food system. And so our work is really going to emphasize the innovative solutions tailored to these diverse communities. Communications and outreach will be based on a bottom-up approach. And that's meant to encourage local food and ag communities to lead and expand their networks and their regional impact. Our core objectives began with the recognition that the Northeast really has a potential for change and growth. So we aim to align our objectives with the work of local initiatives, such as the the New England Food Systems Planners Partnership, who has a goal that by the year 2030, that 30% of the food consumed within the region will be produced by the region.
That's great, Jana. Now, you've been very busy, very, very busy, because it's my understanding that there actually are 11 states involved in this initiative, plus Washington, D.C., right?
Yes.
And you just got back from D.C.
Yes.
So, and kind of what's the buzz about this? Are people excited? Are people, just trying to get ready? What actually is happening right now?
All of the above.
Yeah.
We all
Great.
recognize that we have a lot of work to do ahead of us. There's been a lot of work that has been done in this space, but really the network and the coordination hasn't been there. Mm-hmm. So we're going to be able to really move forward with that, and not just in our region, but across the nation with all of the centers.
Right. So I think there's strength in numbers and strength in, everyone pulling in the same direction, right?
Yes.
So that's great. And so I want to find out, how did each organization get involved in this? And I know, Commissioner Ball, you've been involved in agriculture for a long, long time, both as a farmer but also as a leader. And we appreciate everything that you do for New York. But why do you think this is important? I know you serve on regional efforts with other states quite often, but tell me about how New York actually decided to jump in.
Well, thanks. Yeah, great question. I think that, at Ag and Markets, our vision for probably the last 10 years anyway has been about connect the dots. Wherever we can connect the dots, connect people to our food system in a better way. For me, when I was asked to be Commissioner of Ag, one of the questions I get a lot is, do you talk with other commissioners, secretaries, and directors around the country? And we talk all the time. And so post-COVID, you laid out the scenario very well. And, we learned some things about the food system that needed changing. I'm personally remembering back to a couple of meetings I had with Secretary Vilsack when he talked about the need to focus not just on food security, but focus on nutrition security. We could talk about that for a long time. We also talked about transforming the food system because of lessons we learned from COVID-19. So I think we were watching very closely to see what USDA was up to. And when we saw this opportunity, we just saw this was a great opportunity for the region, not just New York State. We've always had a great relationship with Secretary Vilsack in New York State. He went to college here, went to law school here, lived here, and we're personal friends. But when we saw this opportunity come forward and the regional nature of it, we naturally looked at the northeastern states, NEASDA we call it. We looked at NASDA all across the country and said, this is a great opportunity to think regionally, think collaboratively, work together, incorporate lots of thoughts. And it was a natural to involve NASDA in helping us put this together. So I think those are the things that primed us to be ready for this opportunity when it showed up. And frankly, I feel like a lot of planets are lining up here. I mean, we're here today, Grow New York. I mean, you guys are looking to the future. You're thinking about the food system, what it ought to look like going forward. So are we.
Excellent. Thank you very much. How about you, Allison? How did you get involved?
So, looks kind of like unbeknownst to me sometimes when you're busy working, you don't realize how many eyes are on your work. And we have had a relationship with Ag and Markets, and we have a relationship locally, regionally, and across the state with many partners. So, one day received a call about the Regional Food Business Center and asked if I would consider being a partner. And of course, wanting to be in a space where you have the opportunity to make a big impact on the food system and food system actors, I was thrilled to be even considered to be a partner. So once we had a few meetings and talked about what this would look like, we started to work on our grant submission, which was a wonderful team effort. The partners on this core team are pretty much exceptional. And even though I'm here to contribute, I'm also learning so much, and just really was excited to be able to sit with these folks and write this submission and cross our fingers and hope that our submission was accepted, and it was, and that's when the real work has begun. And as Jana said, we've got a lot of work ahead of us, but it's really all good stuff.
Yeah, that's great. And so I'm aware of some of the work that you've done because we've been involved in similar organizations and initiatives. But could you talk just a little bit, Allison, about how the work that you're doing right now can translate into what the goals of this initiative actually are?
So we are really tasked with making sure that diversity, equity, and inclusion is grounded in all of this work, in all aspects of the work. And that really comes organically for our organization. We are a diverse organization. We work in diverse communities. And because we are in an urban farming space, but we also need and partner and work with our rural farmers, we understand that complexity. We understand the commonalities and the differences, and we understand the challenges that both rural and urban farmers face. A lot of them are different, but there are many similarities. So I think that positions us well to be in a space where our focus is diversity, because it means ethnic diversity, age diversity, diversity in agricultural and food systems. Like, what does that look like? We have to make sure that we are equitable in our outreach, in our service, and in whoever is chosen to receive funding and technical assistance, all the way from Maine to Maryland, as was outlined. And what does that mean? That's a rather huge undertaking, because agriculture is very diverse, it's complex, and there are many needs that need to be met. So we feel like we're kind of uniquely positioned with a lot of support and assistance to serve in this role.
That's great. Thank you, Allison, for that answer. And so, Commissioner Ball, as you said, I mean, you're literally leading the front lines in food and agriculture all across the state, and you're obviously very plugged in, as you said, with the USDA and the leadership there, and also with other states. But from your perspective, what are the greatest challenges that are currently facing the Northeast food system? Like, what do you see out there, Commissioner, that maybe is concerning to you, or that you feel we need to take some action on?
Well, I don't want to dwell on challenges too much, otherwise we'll get depressed here. The challenges are enormous. Yeah. They really are. First of all, our food system is probably 3 or 4 generations removed from the farm. Mm-hmm. 3 or 4 generations ago, everybody's grandmother, grandparents, or their parents were connected to agriculture much closer. So that's a challenge. It's also a great opportunity. I think one of the biggest challenges I see as I get around farms in New York State and around the country is uncertainty. We've got wars going on around the globe. We're uncertain about where that's going, what that means to our markets, to our supplies. We've got challenges in Washington, D.C. with getting budgets done and getting agreement about the most complicated piece of legislation that goes through Congress every 5 years, the Farm Bill. They got us a one-year extension here, which is great. But uncertainty about the market, uncertainty about the climate, uncertainty about what's happening in our national government, also back at home. And having gone through, as you mentioned, the last few years of COVID-19, we saw such a disruption to the food system. Both ends of the food chain were hurt the worst. We had consumers who couldn't get access to the food they were used to getting in the grocery stores. But we saw farmers lose half their market. Half of what we produce in New York State and in so many other states goes into the institution world, goes to restaurants, goes to schools. And we saw that shut down. So we had both ends suddenly lose half their market or not have access to food. That's a huge challenge. But it did show us, as Allison mentioned, and Jana did also, that it exposed some of the things in the food chain that we could work on. So I think, that challenge, we can turn into an asset, because here in New York State, we've got the resources. And we have to remember the lessons that we learned from COVID-19. We need to focus on the opportunities that we have here. I think that it's a great challenge, but if you look at it, here, certainly in the Northeast, specifically, I can speak to New York State. We've got, great resources. We've got you with the Center of Excellence. We've got you people who are excited about the future. We've got some of the best farmers in the country here. We rank in the top 10 over 30 different commodities. We've got land, good land. We're not on fire. We have access to water. We get the best system for ag education in the country here in the state. And for us here in this room, we live and we work and we farm and we create ideas next to the biggest, most amazing, largest, most diverse marketplace anywhere in the world. So we've got big challenges, but challenges create big opportunities.
Absolutely. Very well said. So with Jana, I want to throw this question to you. So Commissioner did a very good job of outlining some of the challenges, but how will the subawards work to address these issues? Because they're big ones, as he said. And what does the Food Business Center intend to do as far as taking action steps?
The subawards will empower the same communities who didn't have access to or had disruptions in food supply chain, had issues with food deserts, and just were really impacted by the pandemic and food access, really to lead with their own solutions and entrepreneurship. We're going to stand with them and provide them with support, technical assistance, resource sharing, and network building. So what will the center do? Really, the subawards are going to be divided into technical assistance and then also specifically for farm and food businesses. Technical assistance awards are really meant for the technical assistance providers to really just guide those farm and food businesses, whereas the Business Builder Awards are focused on building that capacity within their building, giving them a chance to expand their operations and really access those markets to help continue and create a sustainable food system for them. Subawards will also really help the creative thinkers launch all these innovative ideas like we've seen here today at the Grow New York Summit. But we recognize that the current challenges that we're experiencing and that the food system is experiencing, it's going to change in the next 5 years. And that's what our timeline is for the Regional Food Business Center. It means we need to be really forward thinking from a people perspective, from a trends, insights really insights driven. And so as we distribute those funds and we create that technical assistance and build those networks and those resource sharing hubs with the awards, we really need to think not just about today, but about what is it gonna look like in 1 year? What's it gonna look in 5 years? How can we keep the region sustainable?
Thank you, yes. And Allison, what do you think about this? You're out there in the community every single day, and tell us what your thoughts are.
Yeah, so you mentioned that you and I shared a workspace in the past as a result of COVID. In the Western New York area, we worked on a program called Food Futures Western New York, which is its sole purpose was to try to strengthen our regional food system, taking into account 9 counties and how we can, build and support and bolster the food actors and farmers in that system. So I think about that, and I think about expanding that across our region and into other states. And I think this opportunity will allow for the innovation to just grow, because do we really know what the folks in Rhode Island are doing as opposed to what's happening in Pennsylvania? And when you put together a space for all those food actors and growers to get together and be able to network, as Jenna was talking about, and resource share, it can only spark additional innovation. And there are so many brilliant things going on in agriculture and in food systems, and there's so much, sometimes it can be overwhelming. And even though we have 11 states plus Washington, which is a large area, this is gonna be set up so that those folks in this region have a place, they have a space. While it's not going to be a brick and mortar space, but it's going to be a virtual space, and they'll have access to resources and information sharing. And so when I'm doing my day-to-day work, I see the need for that, even on a hyper-local level. So if there's a need for that on a hyper-local level, you can imagine statewide and nationwide. And when you parse out these regions and try to bolster that, I think innovation will grow, and it'll be better for all the food systems from hyper-local to our entire region.
Absolutely. Jan, I want to ask you this. So how will the RFBC center its partnership building and outreach efforts to ensure that it's connecting to all of the targeted stakeholders? Because that's a big job also.
It is. First of all, we really recognize the historical barriers that between and trust issues between government agencies as well as communities in the Northeast. So, and to be frank, across the nation. So in response to that persistent trust gap, I mentioned that we're taking the center and structuring the center from the bottom up. Really with stakeholder engagement and feedback and input. We want this to really add value to our work, and so we're emphasizing that collaboration just to become something bigger and better and be an example for the rest of the centers. Our team structure will have community advisors. As Allison mentioned, she's leading the DEI Council, and so those people are critical to that commitment because of their expertise. They are the voices of their community and the communities they serve. They have the cultural perspectives and diversity practices, or diverse practices that we can combine together and just utilize across the region.
So there will be some guardrails built in as far as DEI, right? And I would like it, Gianna, if you could address that, and then Allison briefly address it too.
Well, as far as the guardrails, we're just making sure that the communication is both equal parts input and output. You know, we want those organizations to be able to provide that feedback to us, provide the issues that they are experiencing. Most of those organizations are coalition-based, and so they have members. We need to know their needs. We need to know and what's going to make sense for them as these sub-awards roll out. And then for the output, again, we're building those partnerships. We want to be able to communicate with our state point of contacts. We want to be able to communicate with those organizations, the local organizations that have the disparate or overlapping networks, just to make sure that we are hearing from everybody. We have the DEI lens, we have the industry stakeholder groups. And so those are our guardrails.
Thank you. And Allison, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think an important thing is when folks are included on the ground floor. So this first year, we will spend the majority of our time planning and engaging and making sure that all the folks who should be at the table are at the table. And I feel like that's a healthy amount of time so that organizations and folks aren't feeling like they're an afterthought. So we're asking you to come to the table. We're engaging with you now in the planning year. And I think that's a form of trust building and we have time to get to know one another. We have time to meet with organizations and individuals and talk about what they're seeing and what they think the needs are. So I think that's a really unique way that we're handling this project.
Yes, thank you for that. So what's the timeline, Jana?
We are still in the early stages. However, we are working on that firm foundation of trying to build those groups. We want to ensure that those communities have that voice, but we also want to make sure that those organizations and those farm and food businesses that have been left out of previous funding opportunities are prioritized moving forward with this initiative, okay? So we're currently coordinating with USDA and the 11 other centers just to make sure there's consistency across the board. However, our immediate priorities. One, we want to expand awareness. We want to be in front of people, expand awareness so that when those awards are available, that people are well prepared and well equipped to apply for them when they come out. And then second, you know, we've mentioned several times about building our collaborative structure and making sure that we have a team who can execute based on the voices of who's providing our input.
Yeah, great. Now, Commissioner, I want to ask you this question because, as Jana said, this is going to take time to get off the ground and people are working very hard to get it rolling. But what other programs are out there that the stakeholders can get engaged in right now or can help, you know, as far as supporting the agri-food system?
Well, sure. And this is why I'm optimistic in the face of all the challenges, because I see so many opportunities. First of all, I've said it before, but you guys, Grow New York. You're all entrepreneurs, all thinking about where this food system can take you and your businesses. And obviously, New York loves that idea. We're invested in that. But I see the alignment that New York has with USDA on so many levels. You know, the transformation of the food system that Secretary Vilsack is so eloquent about talking about to make sure that as we look at this new farm bill, as we look at the food system going forward, that we include all of agriculture, not just really large commodities, but small farms and opportunities for small farms to participate in this great new venture going forward. So, you know, I have to say, you know, local food purchase assistance program in New York, we're going to call that New York Food for New York Families. But, you know, a great resource and funding for New York. Think Nourish New York and taking it to at the federal level. And we were flattered that they copied so many of the things that we fought hard to get into Nourish New York done. The Resilient Food System Infrastructure Grant, we were successful in getting that here in New York State. About $19 million to kind of be the glue between this great vision that NASDA with the Regional Food Business Center in New York and the Northeast State have together. that can really fill in a lot of gaps in funding and opportunities. Right here in New York, you know, we've been trying to connect dots for a long time, but we've never seen the level of funding coming from USDA to support things that we're also working on here in New York. And we've got a record budget this year, you know, in agriculture to help support those same programs. So this Grow New York Summit, new and beginner farmer funding, community gardens, urban farming funding, the grants that we have there, New York Grown and Certified, our brand for New York, helping more people get the infrastructure they need to accomplish the goals to get that, are just amazing. And I think, I hate to throw in another topic, but climate. We've seen so much happening, you know. My grandfather worried about the weather, I worry about the weather, but you know, today we have to think about climate change. But I see it, Secretary Vilsack sees it as an opportunity for farms to participate and having more market access. I mean, these are all great ways that I think we can leverage the funding and opportunities, technical expertise we see coming out of Washington with what's happening right here in New York State. From our urban areas right to our fields all across the state.
Fantastic. Believe it or not, we're out of time. That was fun, so that went very quickly. But I want to thank each and every one of the panelists for joining us today. And I guess one question that I have is, how can people learn more? Because, you know, we're kind of rolling it out there a little bit today. I know there's a lot more that needs to be done, but Jana, how can people get involved or learn more about this initiative?
Thank you for that question, because that was supposed to be said during the timeline. So anyway, we would love for you to become engaged. We have a QR code. I don't know if they're going to put it on the screen. A QR code, it shows our website. There you go. Our website, our email address, and we'd love for you to follow along, subscribe to our newsletter, just so that we can provide you with the updates. You know what information is coming. We'll host webinars. But the next step, I really ask that you share this. Please share it. Share it with your networks. Share it with anyone who might be interested in these sub-awards and who would qualify for these sub-awards.
Thank you, Jana. Mm-hmm. So let's show our appreciation for our panelists. Thank you. So Jana and I are going to leave the stage, and Allison, hold down the fort in Buffalo, okay, for us. And we're going to have Commissioner make a special announcement right now. So,
right now, don't
Ball.
Leave your seat.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I need to stand at a podium for this one because this is kind of important. So thank you, and thank you all for being here. We've had a couple of great days here, and the energy in the room is certainly palpable. And it's always, for me and for us, I think, such a good day when we can recognize energy, when we can recognize achievement and success in the next generation. So I got to speak with our winner of the Grow New York Youth Competition a little bit before I came up here. He is already on his way back to high school. He's got a bit of a trip. But what an incredible young man. Earning $3,000, sponsored by Taste New York, and winning first place in the 2023 Grow New York Youth Competition. Congratulations go to Arjun Bindra from Jericho High School in Nassau County down on Long Island for his project Evergreen. Let's get together and give him a great round of applause. I hope he's listening on his way home. So thank you. And with that, I'll conclude my remarks and turn it over to Jen. Thank you. Thanks, Jen. Good job.
Okay, well, we are beginning to wrap up the day. I do want to make a little announcement that any students who are taking the bus back to Ithaca, please feel free to get up and leave the room even while I'm speaking, because the bus is waiting for you. So I want to say thank you to the commissioner and to Kathy Young for hosting the symposium. Really, the symposium, the panel conversations here, they are the heart and soul of the Grow New York Summit. It's great to be able to nurture startups. It's even more important to be able to engage the entire community in a conversation about where we're going in this region towards greater sustainability and resilience and equitability in our food system. I also want to thank Brian Bauer for his emceeing. I don't think he's in the room, but I will be buying him a drink later for sure. He's really helped, he's been a North Star for this program, and he helped me whip the judges into shape this afternoon. We at Cornell University couldn't have achieved our goals for Grow New York without the support of New York State, our team of mentors, the esteemed speakers that brought our symposium to life, and our partner group. You can meet a lot of these folks at the award ceremony after this concludes. We're also indebted to our Grow New York Summit sponsors, Farm Credit East and Wegmans. Both have been with us from the very beginning, and we could not make the summit as lively as we do without them. And finally, we're grateful to those of you watching. If you've stayed with me online, God bless. And those of you in the audience for your participation. The energy that you bring to the summit really matters. Whether you joined us in person or online, we welcome your feedback. Please take a few minutes to complete a short survey if you would. It helps us serve you better in the future. I have in my script that the judges are busy deliberating who should win the $1 million prize, but the fact is the deliberation is done. And so we are just really looking forward to having the award ceremony and to toasting them and to toasting all of the finalists and making them feel like they have an important role to play here in the region. So you can hop on a shuttle bus to take you from here to the SUNY Broome Culinary School, which is about a 7-8 minute walk if you want to stretch your legs and get some fresh air. The sun is still up for a couple of moments. But that shuttle runs every 15 minutes from about 5:15 until about 8:30. It'll bring you right back here. If you can't stay for the reception and award ceremony, please look for an announcement of the winners at 7:30, 8 o'clock, coming from Governor Hochul's office. We're very honored to have her interest and support in this program. And you can check out our website later this evening for the full press release. So thank you so much for joining us. We will be hosting the Grow New York Summit next year on Wednesday, November 15th and Thursday, November 16th in Ithaca. And we hope to see you there. Thanks again.